Hello, good morning. It's a Friday, the 5th day of Christmas, so everybody still feels Christmassy. Merry Christmas to you. This morning on the program, we look at Liberia and talk about George Weah's pitch to palace story. Now, his rising is simply a triumph of resolve over the variation, or if you like, vicissitudes of life and daily living. Born on October 1, 1966, the senator representing Montserrado County fought his very humble background by keeping his eyes on the ball, in a manner of speaking. Between 1981, when he started out as a striker in his native Liberia, through 1987, when he was spotted by Arsène Wenger at Tonnerre Kalala in Cameroon and taken to Monaco in France, where he blossomed beyond words in 2003, he ended his illustrious career in 2003. George Opong Osman Weah had built an intimidating reputation that would last him a lifetime, perhaps. This morning, I have a gentleman, one of two guests, to broach the subject matter. Opong Weah, he's rising. Let's meet and greet Chuks Nwoko, a publisher and a public affairs analyst. Chuks, Merry Christmas to you.
Stephen Jones, I'm glad to have you.
Oh.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Glad to see you. Thank you for having me.
So how do you open George Opong Weah?
Your intro sums it up, and he's become, and is going to remain for a long time, a picture that our youths all over Africa, we need, and particularly in Nigeria, we need to constantly look at. That it's of a truth that pursuit is the evidence of desire. If you desire so strongly, you will pursue it. And that is the story. We have such stories littered all over Africa and elsewhere, but his own is just awesome and exemplary as far as I'm concerned to our youths. You know, for a young man who was born in 1966.
Yeah, not only in his Liberia, which has struck a number of firsts. Mm-hmm. Liberia has produced the first female president. This is the first time since 1944 the country would be transiting, and this is the first time a footballer, I was going to say on the globe, but in Africa would get to
top gun.
Exactly. Through hard work.
It's awesome. It's gladdening. It just vindicates people like me, and a lot of people like me who believe in that kind of trajectory, that it's possible to migrate from grace to grass. We have so many such examples in the economy and other spheres and all that, But this is for me a top gun achievement for him and all that. That doggedness, that belief that I can, that is what has just happened, and I feel very encouraged myself that the things that I have set as goals for myself, that I can do it. I'm really, really motivated. I didn't see the possibility, but for him, I'm so glad. And I think that our youths need to really, our young people who are constantly complaining and grumbling and all that, because you see, in the place of adversity, gold is hidden. Yeah. And in the place of adversity is a place to make it. I'm a student of Malcolm Gladwell and all that, and he's always talked about people who came, including himself, who came from very poor, wretched background. If you take a look at our socio-political landscape, it's the same kind of thing that you find. What I don't know the story of the parents of Mike Adenuga or Tony Elumelu or Dangote, but these guys have managed to emerge. People like the Okoties and all that from poor background. These individuals, but their own children, you hardly hear of them are making such great attainments, apart from the fact that they are sent to Ivy schools abroad and all that. So it's a great news for me. I'm very well encouraged.
It is said that footprints on the land, great footprints on the sands of time are never made sitting down.
Absolutely.
And let's fan out and begin to look at the Opong Weah story in relation to Africa. The president, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, said she was not going to back her vice, especially in the area of campaigning for him. She didn't. But the vice went up against this boy, in a manner of speaking, and they threw up the issue of Judge Weah is not educated. Now we know it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure what he meant by that is that he didn't go to school. But when you go to school, you are just schooled. Upon where he's educated, like, you know, I can tell you that category because I share the same experience. I was an adult. I had a child before I went to school. But coming to live in Lagos was a whole university for me. I learned everything that I know today, not in the four walls of university, even though I eventually went to university, acquired a diploma, eventually acquired a degree and all. But none of that can be compared to the education that I've acquired by educating myself and all that. He's right that he probably doesn't have a university education, but I think that he has traveled wide. He's played football at the highest level, interacted in the best places of the world and all that. Except if he disappoints me. But for me, university education or schooling is no longer a prerequisite for anybody to make it, especially if you're determined. The British people will say that the brave, how do they say it now? But if you display brevity, you achieve your goals.
Yeah. Chooks, nobody gets educated at school. You get taught.
You get taught and schooled.
All right then. Listen to his reaction when he was faced with that. With all their education and experience, they have governed this country for hundreds of years. They have done nothing for the nation. That's Judge Weah. But he went to school, got a degree from the DeVry University. I hope my French is very, very funny. That's in Miami, Florida. So it doesn't matter anymore.
Education is essential. Schooling, going to school, getting educated as a way, very important. You cannot, but I eventually did acquire education so I can write and all that. But like I said to you, and like he rightly said, he's been all over the place, and he has a heart for the people. And the heart is what is important in leadership, in aspiring to provide leadership. The heart, the connectivity, the empathy for the people. That is what is important. In the days of old, nobody asked you for your university degree or qualification. And in fact, the people, like you rightly said, what was the qualification of the people who have led us in this country, in Nigeria, for how many years? But my concern for him will be what he will do for the people, his ability to connect with the people, to sympathize with them, to be able to provide for them, and bring inspiration, and live an exemplary life, and provide what I host what I own, what is called the Compassionate Prize.
Okay.
It's an award that we give to people who display the things that I'm talking about. They don't necessarily have to. In fact, they are not given to politicians. We do it every year. He must be able to display that level of compassion towards the people. The way he lives his life, the simplicity, the connectivity is very important. Because that country, right now as we speak, needs that kind of leadership right now. It's not, the people will not be interested in what degree and what university he went to. But what are you able to do? What's your lifestyle? What can you bring to the table?
Yeah, Chooks, nobody says that the story of Judge Weah is a smooth sailing one. As a senator, he's being criticized for not doing enough.
Yeah.
Are you surprised?
No, I do not expect that he would do enough. If you know what is going on with us, people just think that if you occupy a political position, that's what has led to all the corruption that is going on in South Africa with Zuma, because he wanted to do enough for his people, so he was just taking money from all the places and living a lifestyle that is not.
Well, that's doing enough in your.
He did enough for his people, but that's what landed him into trouble, because he came from a province where the people are very poor. So when he returned home and an election was conducted and all that, but that's not what we're discussing. If that is what the people of Liberia or the people he's representing expect him to do, and he has not been able to steal money and do enough, they should understand that he doesn't have to steal. Now that he's been elected president, the country can't even offer enough to anybody because they are in a very dire situation, economically speaking. So he needs to be able to sit down and find an alternative way of developing the country economically, because what they have done in the last 10 years, with Madam President hasn't worked. Bringing IMF and International World Bank to the place to come and mess them up the way they have messed up other countries hasn't worked. So
Madam also worked at the IMF.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, she worked it, but the IMF doesn't belong to her. IMF belongs to individuals and institutions who are profit-oriented individuals and organizations.
I mentioned that deliberately. There have been great Africans who had worked at the World Bank and at the IMF.
Like our own sisters, I think we have had our own people, but we have never, as a people, benefited, because what they never tell you is that those institutions are profit-oriented institutions. And we have never bothered to ask these are people who work in those institutions. Please tell us, who are the owners of these institutions? It's owned by people. It's owned by institutions. What's their mindset? They haven't helped Nigeria. Babangida brought them here in 1986, deceived us. They've done the same thing to Liberia, and Liberia is where it is today economically. So I'm saying that upon, the new president, upon Weah, needs to sit down and think, because that's where we lag behind in Africa, inability to think and find a solution to the problem. You got to abandon all these extractive things that we do that has not helped Nigeria, that has not helped the countries that have extractive industries. You need to use your head going forward.
It is also instructive to tell the viewer that George Weah became senator by beating the son of the President Robert Sirleaf.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, which is saying, and it's said the youth are behind him.
Yeah, because in some sense, he represents that, in every ramification. It represents the downtrodden. The story represents the story of an average Liberian who is poor, who have no hope and whatever. So he needs to constantly remember that, then inspire that generation. Because those are the people that he actually needs. That's the group of people that are the strength of every nation, you youths. So he needs to be able to develop the skill himself. I trust that he has it, to be able to galvanize that generation, those group of people, so that he can take that nation to the next level. Because in the last 10 years, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not even aware of what they have achieved in the last 10 years. Maybe some level of peace and now a smooth transition, that has not happened in 44 years. But beyond that, we need them to find concrete, route to rebuilding that economy. Rebuilding that economy.
After surviving 2 rounds of unavoidable senseless wars. 14
years of senseless war. I think they've just been, I've never seen a country that has been so unfortunate. They suffered a heavy misfortune, civil war for 14 years. Then the Ebola epidemic came to the place and, destroyed the lives of the people. But I think that they have put that behind them now. This election and the transition has just proved that there's hope for that country and there's hope for the people. But all you need is one man to become a president, and he has a thinking...
A rallying point.
Absolutely, that he has the ability to provide direction and that he can inspire the people. And what I hate most of the time in African countries, whether it's in South Africa, in Nigeria and all that, you just find these people who are elected into positions and they're not able to inspire the people. And the election is coming very soon in Nigeria, and people are already talking about experience. And I'm asking, experience in what? In the world that we live today, in the last 20 years, you inspire the people to work. You inspire the people to
propel them.
You inspire, it's inspiration, so that when a man is hungry and he cannot drive his car, when you speak to him and all that, you can galvanize them and move them in one direction. That's what Liberia needs now. We have had need of it, and every time I come here, I've talked about inspiration and thinking, because that is just what is latest. When you don't have that, you're going to have all these people who are grumbling all over the place.
Yeah. Chuks, let's look at Joseph Boakai, the vice president. He caused the rerun ballot to be held up for 7 weeks. Typically African?
Yeah, of course. Even for the elected president, everything is African, black. We have our setback, and we don't like talking about it. Unfortunately, I like to talk about it because there's something that just hinders the black man from making the 100% progress that he potentially can. Now, I have to constantly...
Is it really black?
Yeah, it is. Oh, it is.
Black or African?
Well, African. But if you want me to stretch it, I can stretch it without any regret. That is black, because you go to the United States and you find that, it's just peculiar with the people with the black skin. We're not able to to rise to the place when
There are people who will puncture that balloon.
No, but it's punchable. What I'm just saying is
Yeah.
that given the potential and opportunities that we have, that you can, the people who have climbed above the rest of us, they're very insignificant in number. Given the potential, given the opportunities that we have not done well. That's what I'm saying. Now you can point to a few guys here and there and all that, but they're insignificant in terms of number. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you just oppose it with the opportunity, look, let's take example of Liberia and Nigeria. Please, sir, what country or which country on earth is as endowed as Nigeria? In terms of natural endowments, in terms of human beings.
Intellectual,
Of course. In terms of resilience, come on. Name one country. Okay, let's not just name one country. Let's combine the United States of America and Britain. Combine them. Compare what they have to what we have. Look at Liberia. Do you know what they have? It's the same things that caused the problem for 14 years, war. Natural resources. And we haven't risen up.
Gold.
Yeah. Gold both from Sierra Leone, the oil that they have, and all the other things that they have in the place. So we must constantly take our eyes off these things that are causing problem. We need to remove our eyes and lift up our eyes. And I'm lifting up my eyes right now, and I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at your head. Your potential is in your head. And until you use what is in your head, and until Nigerians and Liberians use what is in their head, it's going to be the same story. He's going to be president of Liberia for another 10 years, and there will not be anything to show for you. You know why? Because you're constantly wanting to find shortcut solutions to internal problems. You bring IMF, you bring this one, you borrow money. The solution we should emulate is in our brain. How did Singapore get to where they are today? It's ahead. How did Japan get to where they are? In fact, they are marginalized. Singapore was chased out of Malaysia. Japan, can you be as unfortunate as Japan, has a terrible neighbor in North Korea? What do they do in Japan? Ideas. So we need to leave all these things that are on the ground and begin to tax our head and be creative in leadership. If it doesn't do that, Liberia will still be where it is today.
Let's look at Weah's vice, the wife of former warlord Charles Taylor, a senator as well. Would that be a factor?
Yeah, a great factor. I believe in women. I have always believed in the role of women in our domestic settings, in society and all that. I just love the setting that they have in that place. The fact that the woman, and that woman who has been that was married to a former warlord and all that, that has been a senator and has been around and all that. And in fact, I think that they're a winning team and all that. He probably made the right choice. I just pray and I hope that she would provide that strength. Women carry some level of strength.
An aura.
Yeah, an aura. They bring some virtue and all that. When they bring it and you have the fortune of finding such a great woman, you will always succeed. And that country will benefit from that strength.
Another warlord, Senator Yomi Johnson, is behind him too.
They don't have a choice but to look at where they are coming from and jettison all those things that they have divided them in the past.
Drag them back.
Yes, and look at the last 10 years. And forget how many years they've been in existence. And look at the last 10 years, what progress they have made, all the mistakes that they have made, where they are right now. They need to work together. If they can find other women to put in their cabinet, and then this Madam President sits back and become like a political ancestor to them, constantly advising
Mother
them.
figure.
Yeah, mother figure, whatever. And just work as a team. They will go places. But like I said, if they continue to look for the money and continue to look at their resources and look at the extractive industry, they just be like the way we have been here. We are constantly talking about oil here, talking about budgeting. When we have sold the oil, we bring the money, we save some, we budget some, then we steal the money. They will just be doing that. That's the kind of example that they have. I think that they need to arise above that and use this place. Again,
the president, as a rallying point, had been the bane of African development over time. There's always a chance for a new beginning. Do you see this as one of them?
Absolutely. That's how I started. I see this as a new beginning. I remember that 10 years ago when he was trying to be president, they said to him, let's allow this woman bring her experience, her relationships, global relationships and connections and all that. I think 10 years has expired, and there's nothing like patience. Here he is. My prayer for him is that you're not going to act and be like them. This, for me, is a paradigm shift. Now, when a paradigm shift occurs, and when change occurs, which has occurred in Nigeria, but we don't like pains. But every pain brings, all the things that it brings, if you are able to endure. Yeah. Trials and tribulation, when you endure it, you'll be glorified. But here we don't like that. When our nation, Nigeria, has been raped for 16 years, when you rape a woman and rape her to death, then you want her to breathe and give birth to a child. It can't happen. That's what has happened to Nigeria. So what they need...
Is Nigeria in intensive care?
Yeah. Nigeria, you don't know.
In
the last how many years? In the last eight years. Before you came on set, I was talking to your colleague, and I was saying, we were saying stuff like this, and he said something to me, and I said, what is going on in Nigeria? Is it strange to you? He was coming from America to Europe, and he arrived in Spain. We didn't notice when this recession arrived in Spain. He arrived in Greece. The Greece problem was known to everybody in the world. He arrived in Nigeria several years after. We were not prepared. We didn't save. The one that we saved, President Jonathan and his people, they filtered it away. So me, I'm not joining them in the argument because I have looked at the trajectory, our journey so far, and I'm amused at the complaints and murmurings and all these things. The nation called Nigeria is a, quote, a woman. She's been raped to death. She's in intensive care. If you like, grumble from here to tomorrow until she recovers. You can't continue to rape a woman on a daily basis and think she will be able to go inside the kitchen and cook for you.
Chooks,
that is what is going on that they need to avoid.
Let's avoid a lot, this illustration.
No, you don't like it.
Raping a woman and so on.
That is what is going on. A lot of women are being harassed. Okay. A lot of our women, you don't like to talk about it, but a lot of our women are being dealt with unfairly, and society does not provide for it. The way Nigeria was abandoned in the hands of this group of destructive elites who kept us where we are today, and nobody wants to talk about it. It's blame game, PDP, APC. That will not solve the problem. So they need to avoid that in Liberia. That's what I'm saying.
So we are both in agreement that the new picture...
It's a new beginning.
In Liberia is an open sesame into tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yes, so?
Absolutely. So what needs to happen is
the future begins from now.
From now. And that future has to do with the head, a thinking head. The knowledge of what needs to be done is seated somewhere. Somebody needs to just open that script and read it. But if you do the same things that have been done, you need to find an alternative outside of IMF, outside of World Bank. If you go back to them, it's the same thing. Your paradigm shift and the freshness that you brought, you have just messed it up. You have just contaminated it. He needs to use this place. You said he went to school. If he stays in power for 1 year and goes to Harvard and spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and be able to connect and come back, he has to go round. Go to Cambridge, come to Nigeria and all that. But he must not come to this place, come and meet all these politicians here. Because, you know why? Because the lifestyle we live here is a lifestyle of every day we're looking for the money. So when the marketers don't have the money, they frustrate all of us so that they can have access to our wealth. It's about wealth, courage. It's about the money.
Personal interest.
Personal interest. Exactly. Personal interest. Where is the money? Where is the money? Where is the money? Nobody's thinking about the people. Nobody's thinking about the whole. So he can't come here. What he needs to do is go to places where he can receive words of wisdom. Collaborate what I've just said.
Yeah, Chooks, but being president of a country is a team thing. Mm-hmm. He works with a team.
No.
And so he is going to have...
It's a leadership, it's a compassionate leadership team. You are, in a normal society, when you're a leader president, you are the leader. Do you know what leadership is? You are sitting and the president of a country. I should know so little about everything so that even if my team comes to me, and this one is talking
Greek,
shibboleths. This one is talking economic shibboleths. This one is talking Greek and all that. A leader discerns things, understands basic of everything. That's why it's called education. I believe more in education than in schooling. And you talked about being taught. A leader sits down on his table and all his team members are talking to him. He has an understanding. There's something that is given to a leader that is able to know when you are lying and all that. We haven't had that here.
You must be streetwise.
Absolutely. If that's what you want to call it. But he's discernible, he's gifted, he's compassionate, he is respected. You know, so that.
Ambitious.
Yes. And he can be very, very vicious too. And he loves the people. That when you are advising him, you know, it was Obasanjo that came near to what I'm telling you. One time he said that you are my advisor. Your job is to advise me. My job is to
decide whether to take it or not.
Because he knows little of every. It has nothing to do with age. You either have it or you go and acquire it. Leadership. When you have it, then you can have your team members. It's not here that people will come and be telling you story. You don't even know the left from the right. I had a president of Nigeria speak one day on TV. I can never forget it. I was watching a TV program on the 6th of, it was a Friday. I will never forget. It was the 6th day of January 2012. I was sitting down in my living room and I put on my TV to hear the news. And this man made a statement.
This president of Nigeria in question.
Yes. And he was talking to youth corpers that was given an award that, the reason we removed the subsidy is because you have people who are just driving SUVs. Some of them have 6 SUVs and all that and all that. And I'm sitting down and I'm like, did I hear right? In a free market economy, where you have less than 5% of the people who drive those cars, how about the rest of us who don't drive the cars? You remove subsidy because of them. Now, that's not the issue here, but the point I'm making is that leadership is a responsible business. It's something that if you are not cut out of it, like here, you just have some arrangement and somebody is put in, before election, negotiation has taken place. Have you noticed that that's how things are done here? So Judge Oponwe has a job to do, and I hope he doesn't disappoint me.
All right, then if you are just joining the debate, Liberia Judge Weah's pitch to palace story. It's very interesting. We'll take this break and return. Okay, then we are joined by Kunu Adeni. He is an international affairs analyst and a commentator on public affairs. Welcome, Kunu.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you.
I wish you the same.
This story is not a new one to you.
It is not new.
Judge Weah's rising.
It is not new, but it is new by virtue of the person he is. And I think it's actually a happening that has carved a new niche when it talks about aspiration and leadership, particularly coming from the kind of background that the man himself has. Somebody who was raised by the grandmother, somebody who felt he has a thing or two to add as far as the Liberian history or story is concerned, and somebody who sacrificed everything. And I think one thing that I found very interesting with Judge Weah is the fact that he made an attempt, he didn't get it, and he went ahead to get the requisites to be able to occupy that position. Within 10 years, he was able to get a master's degree. He knows very well that it's not just about money, it's about having the necessary leadership acumen that you don't get except you go somewhere to get it. And he made the necessary sacrifices. So I think it is very, very important for people to take a cue from that, to show understanding in terms of I can get what I want in life as much as I'm able to pay the sacrifices. He made the necessary sacrifices. He had the money, he had the knowledge, he went for the knowledge, he got the knowledge. And at the same time, every one of us in life needs a modicum of human interest, belief, and followership. The Liberian people gave this particular election victory to him. And I've looked at him and tried to analyze the victory cry or whipping that has actually come with it. And I think strongly that the Liberian people love him truly. And that's talking about the positive social fabric that has been able to put together as far as the Liberian story is concerned. So in all of this, it's a lesson. not only for the average Liberian, but for Africa. And it's a lesson particularly for Nigeria, where we're used to having square pegs in round holes. We've had successive leaders who really are fall short of the position they occupy, not by virtue of the status they wield in the eyes of the world, but by being able to demonstrate that indeed they are square pegs in square holes. So it's a very instructive happening in the 21st century Africa.
Kunu, what bothers me in all of this, I like your narrative, very beautiful. In Africa, a president being his own man is a problem.
Well, I wouldn't know if it's...
If you understand what I mean.
I believe...
Being your own man.
Yeah.
Without the big man behind.
And I think even for all of the dislikes and hatred towards Donald Trump, he's his man. Because if you look at it, for the first time in the history of America, a man took the mantle of the American leadership without resorting to Wall Street, without resorting to the normal financiers of, previous American leaders. Now, let me come to the core of this discussion. I think we should know that every one of us has been created uniquely. And it is for us to find the uniqueness that we actually have been created with and look at how we could plug that uniqueness to certain areas where the need actually is so that we can add value. Now, for many people who do not know George Weah, long before, we only know him as a man who has won the 2 greatest football awards, or 3. But the point remains that when Liberia was in fire and rubble, this man was in faraway France with PSG before he moved to AC Milan. And one thing that this man was able to do was that he continually sent a particular amount of money, not just to the Liberian FA, but to a segment of the Liberian people. So fortune smiled on him early, and he knows how it means to give back. Now, whatever it is that he's getting today, he has planted long ago. So I think on all sides and in every ramification, the George Weah story is a novel story, even if it is not a new story here today, that everybody must key into.
Kunu, it's a brilliant opening. But let me ask the viewer, please join the conversation. There's a telephone line on your screen. Take that and call us. Let's get talking. What lessons can we draw from...
Hello.
I hear we have a caller already. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Kunu and the Chooks.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yeah, I am not surprised that this man won this election. I am not surprised. I was one of the personnel in Liberia, ECOMO, from 1994 to 1998, December, when I came back. And I believe that he is a local boy in Liberia, in local parlance, they call Liberia Pekin. They love him. They love this guy very much. In fact, if I should tell you to, the election, Selif won, he's supposed to win it. He's supposed to win that election. And I am happy for him because he is the second since, I think, 1857 or so, they got their independence. They were the first to rule themselves. So I am happy that he is the second native after Samuel Kanyado that is ruling Liberia now. More so, I am also happy that he persevered and he conquered what he has been looking for.
Yeah.
It is going to be a very tough job for him. But I will urge him to do his selection from the root. If he gets the foundation very well, no matter what happens, Liberia is rich.
Thank you.
They have all the natural resources that you can think of. And their population is not even up to 7 million. Okay, so
4.5 million.
They can make something out of it. I believe that it is not going to be easy for him.
Yeah. Thank you. Chooks, it's about the ordinary townsfolk queuing up behind you. But there must be, they think the first salvo comes from you, the leader.
That's what I already said all those things. That salvo must be inspirational. You must be able to galvanize the people and all that. Don't get distracted, because that's what politics has done to us in Africa. Following the Nigerian example, everybody is seeking for, here, once you're not at a corridor of power, then you go to your little corner and you start sending text messages to your people. Oh, he has appointed his wife. Then distraction. That shouldn't happen. We're difficult people to deal with in Africa, but I have so much high hope for him and for the country. There's a need for this freshness that has been brought to Liberia to be sustained.
Kunu, can you remember the Thomas Sankara rising in Burkina Faso?
Most definitely. He was definitely. And I think that there's a whole lot of problem that the man in the person of George Weah has to tackle.
Right.
Do not forget, any time that Africa carves niches for ourselves, the West is always interested.
Sorry, let me quickly take Mazi Okorafor from Arochukwu. I'm sorry, Mazi, we kept you waiting. Welcome.
Good morning, Sir John. Good morning, Sir Oga, and our other guests.
Good morning to you.
First of all, congratulations to George Weah. Lessons we Nigerians to them from Liberia election. One, the election went well. No police, no DSS, no soldier at the polling station. We should copy from that. And George Weah was challenged at the first stage as an illiterate. That scenario forced him to go to what? To school. And he back his first and second degree holder. At least he has what's called an ambition, like what the second speaker was just saying. The man will that's a good ambition. Now, before the first stage election, he has been working for the country as a philanthropist. Now, that word philanthropist is a lesson to us that you don't come during campaign to say, I want to be this, I want to be this. The young man has been campaigning with his money, but taking care of his people. Right from time immemorial, like what the second speaker was just, it's a very, very good foundation that the young man has laid in Liberia. All the warlords supported him directly or indirectly, no question. That is peaceful. Now, we Nigerians, we have to learn a very good lesson. Anybody who wants to contest election come 2019, you should try as much as you know that you have laid a foundation in your place. This will make you to spend less.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Have a blessed day and Happy New Year to everybody.
Many thanks. Didier Drogba in Côte d'Ivoire did something like this to tell you that sports can become a unifying factor.
Well,
yes.
It is.
Yeah, Chooks?
Yeah, it is. Sports is a unifier. Only in this place have we used the slogan for political reasons, but not being able to. I mean, we have greater number of superstars that are very prosperous and rich in this place. What they have done is support politicians instead of, doing. There's nothing wrong with being a philanthropy. The problem with it is, what is your purpose for doing what you're doing? Because, like he rightly said, you will reap if your purpose is. It
is true.
It will yield. I can tell you that. You will benefit from it and all that. So when the opportunity came for George Oponwe, he took it. But what are our own people doing here? They would rather wear T-shirts of, Saraki or for following somebody. But I think that this coming election in 2019 is going to provide our sportsmen and women who are very rich to emulate this example.
Yeah.
There for a position. Not just sportsmen, music men. People who have made it in different spheres of life, we need to understand that this coming election in Nigeria should follow this example in Liberia, where there is the young people who must occupy positions of leadership, because that is the way to go now.
Yeah, Kono, it's not like the rule of the thumb. Joseph Estrada became president of Philippines at the time, but messed around.
Well, I know that it's not cast in stone.
Sorry, let me take Benga calling from Abuja. Benga, good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you?
And good morning to your guests. I'm fine.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I want to congratulate George Weah on his election as the 25th president of Liberia. He worked for it. He invested both his resources and his humane, generosity to get to that place. Number one, during the war, he did not take sides with any of the factions. He was neutral. And he was really helping the downtrodden, because the war really devastated Liberia, as we all know. Then he came around to use his own money resources that he made from football to care for the downtrodden, the IDPs, and all the people that were really but that died. He even funded the team of Liberia in the Nations Cup. He funded them with his own money to make sure they took part in the Nations Cup qualifications. So a man like that will always be endowed to the heart of the people. What we're learning there is that in any situation, in any trial, even if we try to impart to the people's life, the wealth we have is what we make the good we do to our fellow men. That's the wealth we have. It's not the billions we in the bank. It's how you influence the society and the people around you positively. And that's what gave Judge Weah that election.
Many thanks, Benga. Gentlemen, it is said if you can't count your money, you are not rich.
Well,
you are not wealthy, you're only rich.
The truth is, the reason why oftentimes our assessment of wealth in this part of the world is just about
warped.
money.
Okay.
Yes, it's warped. It's because many people, about 70 million Nigerians, are living below poverty line. So anytime we talk about wealth, people quickly go thinking about money. But we should understand that wealth is where you deploy the qualities you have and you get value from that particular. That is wealth, actually. It has been misinterpreted or skewed in this part of the world. You are talking about Joseph Estrada. You mentioned Thomas Sankara. Now, Judge Weah is going to have a lot of problems on his hands to solve. First, 20 ethnic groups in Liberia. About 5-10 of that appears not to be in the mainstream. That is going to be a unifying force. That's one. Then apart from that, the Bretton Woods Institute are always interested in emerging democracies. In 73 years, we're having Judge Weah come after Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. That tells you one thing, Jones, and it's the fact that they'll be interested in the dynamics of the economics of that country. Now, what is the way Judge Weah, how is he expected to position itself? There is no country of the world that exports our commodities and stays rich. And that is why major economies of the world are able to translate their commodities into finished produce so that they can have much of the money in their economy. So what Africa must do, beginning from Liberia, is that he has to ensure the iron ore and all other mineral resources that that country has is more or less translated into finished products, because don't say they don't have the capacity. If they have talents exported to other parts of the world that enable people to do the processing, then they should deploy their best hands and heads to ensure they do the same thing.
Let me take Reverend Dominic here in Lagos. Reverend, welcome.
Good morning, Citizen John.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Kunu.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Brother Chus.
Morning, my brother.
Chus, you have spoken excellently well, but I want to disagree with you in this point. Judge Weah should not go to America, please. Judge Weah should not go to Britain. He will also meet the IMF, who have been advising us wrongly. Judge Weah should go to Ghana and meet a man called Jerry Rawlings and ask him, how do you galvanize Ghana? He was also at his own worst situation. The young man may not have much education like Judge Weah, but Rawlings brought Ghana what it is today. He should go to America. And again, Judge Weah should come to Nigeria. He said he should not come to Nigeria. He should come to Nigeria and meet a brother and a friend. It's not called Chris Okotie. Why I did not want to go into politics until Chris Okotie sat me down and spoke to me. The reason why the righteous men go to go to politics. And when we were in fresh with you and with Chris Okotie, we made our narrative clear. But Nigeria did not want the best truth and the clean people to come into politics.
Yeah.
It's not possible for Nigeria to have a good man 2019 because the water has really messed. The youth have been compromised. What kind of youth do you have today? The iPad youth, the iPhone youth.
Yeah.
And you get the youth who can listen to Chris Okotie, listen to you, Chooks, and listen to me.
Yeah. Reverend, and this is why we ask those of you at the pulpit to begin to preach a new way. There must be a new beginning.
That's the truth. I think that many preachers, permit me, Chuk, sorry, I took it from you.
No, go ahead.
You see, the Bible has shown that from the prophets, major prophets, minor prophets, even Jesus Christ himself, they were never in the same position as the leadership if the leadership does wrong. And I'm beginning to wonder where most of the church leadership and even mosque leadership get their leanings, that when the leadership is leading people astray, many of the leadership of the churches and the mosque wouldn't want to speak to the issues and correct them. If you people are shapers of opinions and thoughts, then I think the political leadership should also be one way or the other answerable, because they come to you, they worship with you, so that we can have, you know, a parallel of addressing issues that bedevil us.
If we talk about that in passing, the fear is always there when people, religious people, begin to come down heavily on government. They lose patronage.
Why do they need to even speak about it? I don't know why
Okay.
they need to speak about it. For instance, Citizen Jones, every human being that you find in this country is either a Muslim or a Christian, and they go to those places and they hear those things.
What about the ones that have not declared their serious affiliations to traditional worship?
No, but even those ones, even those ones
Yeah,
have stronger ethics of what they do.
Okay, now you got it.
What I want to say is that our problem has never been lack of knowledge or understanding of what to do. It's the refusal to externalize what we know. We know so
live
much.
by the tenets.
Absolutely.
By the tenets
so
of
when
your
these
faith.
things are saying, read them from the pulpit. You had a Muslim, Saraki is a Muslim, Buhari is a Muslim, Ambode is a Christian. Name them. Anyone who is not an idol worshiper or whatever. If we are religious people, let us externalize. Even from where I come from, before Christianity came, there are certain things you don't do. They take you to the shrine or they take you to the palace, you swear an oath. And in fact, if you are wrong, you can drop dead. Do you understand what I'm saying? Our refusal to externalize that which is right, which we know which is right, that's our bane.
And that's why I saw a video from Jerry Rollins who says, oftentimes people come swear with the Bible and other religion.
Which religion supports corruption?
Well, there is no religion that supports corruption, but I think strongly that if these persons have refused to externalize these things, then it is the leadership of the church that now has a responsibility and the mosque to let them understand that you're not doing what you should do. So if it appears as if they are deaf on the one hand, blind on the other side, then the leadership of the church should be able to, get them back on track.
Olawale is here calling from Lagos. Olawale, sorry we kept you. Welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, welcome.
I also want to congratulate Judge Weah for his success. And I also want to support the last caller based on what he said. Judge should not go to USA. The man in Washington only cares about America.
Yeah.
One of the best things he can do is come down here, come to the African leaders also. I mean the reasonable and the sensible them. Get ideas from them. Let us integrate ourselves without going to those who will differentiate us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Chooks, the richest spot on the planet is in Africa, DR Congo. There's all the mineral, the wealth of you can think about in the whole world.
Yes.
It is in the Katanga province, harbors all these things, but they cannot exploit these for personal.
Yeah, I told you that it's not just DR Congo. In my opening remark, I told you how that if you check the nations of the world where you have extractive industry, those nations cannot and has never made progress. Go and check it out. It's an assignment. That's why I said to you that for him in Liberia, this is what he needs to use. Because there's abundant evidence to show that nations like Nigeria, Syria, name them, DR Congo, where these things are extracted and phones are made and all that, those wars in DR Congo are forever going to go on because of reasons that are well known to us. So going forward, the brain, the mind is driving some nations already. Technology, name it. That is the way to go. If you cannot do that, I don't know what's
extractive industries. It's a crying shame. I'll take Jabba now. It's a crying shame. Think about this before the break. It's a crying shame that we're still importing bitumen, considering that we are number 2 after Venezuela. Jabba is calling from Bauchi State. Jabba, welcome.
Jabba is calling from Bauchi State. Yes, my name. Hello?
How are you?
No, my name is not Jabba.
Okay. Hello? That's what I'm reading. It's all right. Okay. Welcome, sir.
Yes, I'm calling from Bauchi State.
All right then. Don't listen. Go on. Don't listen to the hallback. Go on.
Yes, actually, the reason why that I call you, first of all, I just want to use this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Josue for becoming the president of Liberia, on 25 president of Liberia. So, and secondly, I want to show my support to Mr. Chooks about what he explained to people.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So
Bitumen.
bitumen,
No.
after Venezuela,
Yeah.
we are the second, highest producer on the planet. We're still importing bitumen.
Well, the point is, it is because it has always been self-serving. Before this administration came on board, our refineries, one way or the other, have been allotted to some indigenous oil magnates who really want to take it to the next level. Immediately this administration came to the saddle, it cancelled the initial agreement. Let me also say this.
You're closing.
Yes, so of course. Now, before now, we also had issues. We had an agreement with China to build certain refineries. The MOU was signed. China brought its counterpart fund. When it is time for Nigeria to bring it, it backs out. It is simply because over the years, it has been Nigeria, our oil, and a segment of the country being in possession of it, not for the greater good of the country. So, and I think the world watching us now should know that it's time for particularly young people, great democracies of the world have had inputs of young people who got involved and ensured that there's change. So I think our work as a people is cut out for us ahead of 2019.
Chooks, how do you close?
Two things. This election is an indictment on all these grumblers and haters that are on social media.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for you to know that if you sow or labor in the next few years, you can become something in this country, either at state level or local government level and all that. For our political leaders, what I've said to Judge Weah is what I am saying to you. You need to vacate the seat and transfer power to a new generation because you have not cared for us in 50-something years. We need leaders who can use their head. Our resources have become a source of problem to us.
Jones,
You have a magic
we will
money.
take that power because it
okay.
is everybody's right. They won't give it to you. You've got to go take it.
All right, Kuno, we must go.
Yes.
But the debate must end there at the studio. Let's continue the conversation, not before reminding you that we just looked at Liberia and, of course, looked at Judge Weah's rising from pitch to palace. Your story can take the same shape. I'm out of here. It's the last show for the year. We'll see you in the new year. Bless you.